Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into our time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Another episode of a summer series, Did Justice Triumph? This series goes back 75 years to August 25th, 1947. It's entitled The Unseen Murder Mystery. And we thank you for tuning in on this Sure Happy It's Thursday, 25th day of August, 237th day of the year. We have 128 days remaining until we get to 2023. New Orleans, founded on this date in 1718 by French settlers, named it after the Duke of Orleans. Department of the Interior created the National Park Service on this date in 1916 to manage and preserve national parks and monuments for future generations. Paris, liberated from Nazi occupation by Allied forces in 1944. And it was in 1968, during coverage of the Democratic National Convention, Dan Rather attempted to interview a delegate who appeared as though he were being forcibly removed by men without identification badges. Now, as Rather approached the delegate to question the apparent strong-arm tactics of the Chicago political machine, he was punched in the stomach by one of the men, knocking him to the ground.
Take your hands off of me. Unless you intend to arrest me, don't push me, please. I know you won't, but don't push me. Take your hands off of me unless you intend to arrest me. Wait a minute. Well, Walter, as you can see...
I don't know what's going on, but these are security people apparently around Dan. And obviously getting roughed up.
We tried to talk to the man, and we got bodily pushed out of the way. This is the kind of thing that's been going on outside the hall. This is the first time we've had it happen inside the hall. I'm sorry to be out of breath, but somebody belted me in the stomach doing that. What happened is a Georgia delegate, at least he had a Georgia delegate sign on, was being hauled out of the hall. We tried to talk to him to see who he was, and what the situation was. And at that instant, the security people, well, as you can see, put me on the deck. I didn't do very well.
I think we've got a bunch of thugs here, Dan.
That was the Chicago political machine back in 1968. Democratic National Convention. The album Born to Run by Bruce Springsteen, released on this date in 1975. Author Truman Capote, found dead in Los Angeles in 1984. In 2001, singer-actress Aaliyah died in a plane crash in the Bahamas. Also passing away on this date, scientist Michael Faraday, philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, intelligence officer missionary John Birch, musician bandleader Stan Kenton, dancer, actor, choreographer Gower Champion, also Ted Kennedy, Neil Armstrong, the first man to walk on the moon, character actor Marvin Kaplan, and John McCain. Also taking place on this date, NASA launching the Infrared Spitzer Space Telescope in 2003. In 2012, Voyager 1 spacecraft entered interstellar space, becoming the first man-made object to do so. And in 2017, Hurricane Harvey made landfall in Texas as a powerful Category 4 hurricane, the strongest hurricane to make landfall in the U.S. since 2004. Over the next few days, the storm caused catastrophic flooding throughout much of eastern Texas. 106 people killed, $125 billion in damage. Among those people born on this date in history, actress Ruby Keeler, the man who was in The Day the Earth Stood Still, Michael Rennie. Also, the man behind the Pogo cartoon strip, Walt Kelly. Bing Crosby's brother Bob, who was the band leader, and in fact he took over for Phil Harris due to budget issues with the Jack Benny program. And it was actually, he wasn't really the band leader because, of course, Malin Merrick was the band leader, and technically the music accompaniment, all that for the Jack Benny show. But Phil Harris was really a figurehead, and then Bob Crosby became the figurehead. Of course, he was already contracted to CBS to do a daily show, so there you go. Also, actor Don DeFore, born on this date, actor Van Johnson, composer, conductor Leonard Bernstein, Governor of Alabama George Wallace, game show host Monty Hall, also the first African-American to win Wimbledon in 1957, Althea Gibson, Scottish actor Sir Sean Connery, also Regis Philbin, and from All My Children and Bonanza, David Canary, all born on this date in history. He won an Emmy Award for Picket Fences. Tom Skerritt is 89 today. She got an Oscar nomination for Fatal Attraction, and Archer, 75. From the band Kiss, Gene Simmons, 73. Musician Elvis Costello, 68. Director, producer, screenwriter Tim Burton is 64. From L.A. Law, Blair Underwood, 58. The Todd in Scrubs, Robert Macchio is 56. Rachel Ray, 54 years of age. Country music singer Joe D. Messina, whose Give a Damn is still busted, at 52. German model Claudia Schiffer is 52 as well. Also, Rachel Bilson of the O.C. and Heart of Dixie is 41. From Gossip Girl, Blake Lively is 35. Those some of the people celebrating the 25th day of August is their birthday. If this is your birthday.
Hi, we're the four freshmen, and we just want to say happy birthday to you.
And from 3/4 of a century, 75 years ago, August 25th, 1947, did justice triumph in the unseen murder mystery? I'm Wyatt Cox. Thanks for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox here on this Thursday on your favorite station.
Veterinary telemedicine is booming. Hi, I'm Dr. Lori Teller, president of the American Veterinary Medical Association, and I know firsthand that telehealth is a valuable tool to help provide our precious pets with the health care they need and deserve. Here are some situations where telemedicine may be an option for you and your pet. If the veterinarian has seen your pet in person in the past. If you're not sure you need to schedule an in-person visit. If your pet had surgery and needs post-operative follow-up. For skin diseases and rash rechecks. When your veterinarian needs to monitor your pet's chronic problems such as diabetes or allergies. If there are behavioral issues or training challenges. Or for hospice care. It's always good to have your session in a quiet place with good lighting. If you're not sure if you should set up a telehealth session, call your veterinarian and they'll let you know. To learn more, check out avma.org/telehealth. avma.org/telehealth.
Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, we go back 75 years, August 25th, 1947. Did justice triumph?
Did justice triumph?
The Mutual Broadcasting System presents another actual criminal case history from the files of the True Justice series, followed by millions of readers in the New York Sunday News and its syndicate. Tonight's case, the Unseen Murder Mystery.
Crimes in modern fiction are usually solved by the masterminded super-sleuthing of some imaginary private detective. But in real life, in actual criminal case histories, such as are dramatized on this program, criminals are generally brought to justice through the diligence and intelligence of hard-working police officers, doing their routine work day by day until the solution is reached. This fact is borne out again in tonight's real crime case, the Unseen Murder Mystery. The scene is Des Moines, Iowa, where a police squad car races up to the entrance of a swanky hotel.
This is it, men. Standish Arms Hotel.
Nice day for a murder, Inspector.
Looks like this is going to be quite a whodunit.
Well, it all depends on what we find, Herman. Oh, come on. Better get inside the hotel and have a look at the body.
That hotel manager sounded mighty excited on the phone.
They're always excited when they have a killing.
It's bad for business, bad publicity.
Go over to the desk. Find out what this is all about.
Yes, gentlemen?
I'm Inspector Curran from the Homicide Bureau. These are Detectives Waterbury and Herman. You the manager?
Yes, you got here quickly.
No time to lose in a case like this. Where's the body?
Room 218. We can go right up if you like.
Well, that's why we're here. Let's go.
Certainly. The elevator's right across the lobby.
You discovered the body just before you called us?
Yes, 10 a.m. exactly. The chambermaid was making her rounds.
This chambermaid is available for questioning?
Yes, she's waiting upstairs.
Floor, please.
Second floor, Jim. These are the police.
You have just the one elevator?
This one and one in back, which is the service elevator.
I want to talk with you later, operator.
Yes, sir. I'll be around.
Be sure that you are, Jim.
Yes, sir. Second floor, gentlemen.
Room 218 is just down the hall, if you'll follow me.
Is that the chambermaid who found the body?
Yes, Inspector. Oh, Annie.
Yes, Mr. Thompson.
These gentlemen are police officers.
Oh, detectives.
They'll probably want to ask you some questions.
Yes, sir.
You're the chambermaid on this floor?
Yes, sir. Yes, I am.
And I understand you found the body.
That's right, sir. I was making my regular 10 o'clock linen tour of the rooms, and I opened the door of 218 with my pass key, and there on the bed. Oh, I'll never forget that sight, never.
Did you see anyone in the hall?
No, sir, no one.
The room was empty except for the body?
Yes, it was horrible, sir.
We may want to ask you some additional questions later. You'll be around?
Yes, sir.
Good. Well, let's go in.
Nothing has been touched, Inspector. Everything is just as it was when the body was found.
Excellent.
Gosh, this place is certainly a shambles.
That's putting it mildly, Waterbury. The room looks as if it had been struck by a hurricane.
Somebody put up quite a struggle here.
And the somebody is doubtless that woman lying dead on the bed.
Bloody sight, isn't she?
Knife wounds. All over her throat and chest.
On her legs, too.
I'll have to wait for a complete medical examiner's report for details. But she certainly had a rough going over.
Inspector, I don't see any luggage.
Here's a woman's handbag.
Well, let's see it.
It was lying on the dresser. Here you are.
Oh, thanks. Nothing much in it. Cosmetics, some cash. Let's see. $150, $200.
That eliminates a robbery motive.
Yeah, that and the rings on her fingers.
Oh, here's a Social Security card. Lily Grinnell, 5142 James Street, Des Moines. Waterbury.
Yes, sir?
Take this and check that address. Find out all you can about this Lily Grinnell.
Right.
Oh, there's a telegram here that may lead us somewhere. It's addressed to Lily Grinnell, 5142 James Street, and says, "Meet me, Hotel Standish Arms, Des Moines, 2:20 p.m. Saturday." Signed, John.
Which is probably the name of the man we've got to find.
Yeah. Mr. Thompson, under what name was this woman registered?
She wasn't registered.
Not registered?
No, a man registered for this room 2 days ago. He paid cash for 3 days in advance.
We'll have a look at the register when we go downstairs.
Certainly.
When did the man check in?
Late Saturday night, shortly after midnight. The night clerk was on duty then. He's a new man, but he remembers the incident very clearly.
Oh, why?
Mostly because 218 was the only available double room in the house.
Double room?
Mm-hmm.
Then this man checked in with someone else.
Oh, yes, another man.
Not this woman?
No, the woman arrived later. Last night.
Well, I see she has a wedding ring.
What happened to the other man?
We don't know what happened to either of them. They just disappeared.
But how is that possible? Don't you keep a check on the goings and comings of your guests?
Usually, but when a guest arrives with no luggage and pays in advance, we have less reason for watching him. You see, we don't expect our guests to commit murder.
Naturally not. How about the man who registered? Can you give us a description?
I didn't see him, but I understand he was elderly with gray hair, walked with a sort of a shuffle. The elevator boy can give you the details.
Uh-huh. You have a service entrance, of course?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Well, there's always the possibility that the man we're looking for went out that way. Herman.
Yes, Inspector.
You'll wait here until the medical examiner arrives. Then post a guard in this room and question the employees at the service entrance. Then meet me back at headquarters.
Yes, sir.
Waterbury, you'll talk to the hotel employees in the lobby, and particularly the elevator operator.
Right.
Well, there's nothing more to do here right now. Let's go downstairs and have a look at that register.
Here's the register, Inspector. Now, let's see. Saturday night.
You said after midnight. Wouldn't that be Sunday?
Oh, yes, you're right. Here we are. Sunday, June 29th, 12:25 a.m. John... I can't read that last name.
Let me see. Well, neither can I. Looks like Stevens, or maybe Stevens' son. What a scrawl. Oh, I noticed he skipped 4 lines in the register. Looks as if he might have been drunk. Was he?
The night clerk didn't think so, but he thought the man's companion had a few.
They went up together?
Yeah, then the companion, the other man, just vanished.
Well, I'm not much concerned about the other man, but I would like to find the man who signed this register. Mr. John Stevens or Stevenson or whatever his name is. You're positive you have no record of his checking out?
Positive?
Well, possibly one of my men may pick up something from one of your employees. I'm going back to headquarters and wait for their reports.
You were operating the elevator the night this man arrived?
Yes, sir.
Let me have the best description you can give of him.
Well, he was on the other side of 50, I'd say. Stocky, about 160 pounds. He had gray hair, and I remember he walked with a sort of a shuffle. He came in on Saturday night with this other guy.
And when did you next see him?
Well, last night, about 11:30.
Last night?
Yes.
What happened?
Well, he came down here to the lobby and then said he'd forgotten something and went back upstairs. And that's the last I saw of him.
Uh-huh. How did he look? Were his clothes mussed up?
No, he looked okay to me, but, well, he acted kind of funny.
In what way?
Well, his face was flushed, and he seemed sort of nervous. I remember he bumped up against the elevator door when he got in the car, but I thought he was kind of tight.
And you're sure you didn't see him again after you took him back upstairs?
Positive. I'm the only man on duty after midnight. He didn't come down in this elevator. Yeah, and if he'd come down the stairs, the night clerk would have seen him.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's all for now. But we'll need you as an identification witness when we find him.
You're the pastry chef?
Yes, Chef, but I don't want to get mixed up in this thing.
You're not mixed up in anything. This is a police investigation. We're trying to put a few facts together so they make sense. That's why I want you to tell me just what you saw last night.
Well, I was outside the rear entrance to get a breath of fresh air. Oh, the kitchen was awful hot.
Yes, go on.
Well, a little before midnight, I see a man leave the hotel by the service entrance.
How'd he look?
He was stocky, middle-aged. He's got the dark hair.
Dark hair?
Yeah.
You sure of that?
Sure, dark hair. I remember clear. He walked out the exit near the bakery.
A little before midnight.
I follow because I think he might be a thief of some kind. Well, he got into bakery supply truck and drove off. I guess the driver must have given a lift.
Ever seen him before?
No, I never see before.
And you're sure he had dark hair?
Oh, sure, positive.
Well, thanks for the information. I'll be in touch with you again. In the meantime, don't tell anyone about our talk.
Later, at police headquarters, Inspector Curran and the 2 detectives sift the information they have obtained so far.
This case is a jigsaw puzzle if I ever saw one.
The evidence so far just doesn't add up, Inspector.
It's contradictory and confused.
That's putting it mildly, Herman. We've just sent out a teletype to all Iowa police asking for information on a middle-aged man with gray hair. And now you come in here and tell me the man who went out the back way at the hotel has dark hair. We don't know who we're looking for, but we're not even sure of his name.
I've got the medical examiner's report, Inspector.
Oh, good. Well, let's hear what it says.
The victim died at about 11 o'clock last night. She'd been dead about 12 hours when we saw the body.
Uh-huh. That adds up. I don't suppose there's any doubt as to the cause of death.
None whatsoever. 14 severe stab wounds. The examiner says he thinks the murder weapon was a long knife with a narrow blade.
But I don't understand why 14 wounds and all over her body.
Possibly the attack occurred in the dark.
The report goes on to say that the wounds are sweeping incisions, not of too great depth. Apparently, the victim was slashed while she struggled, trying to get away. Let's see. Death probably instantaneous due to severed left ventricle. Oh, here's something of interest. 2 of her fingernails were broken off, and there appears to be skin tissue under these nails. The lab is testing scrapings from the nails right now.
Waterbury, as I've been listening to that report, I've developed a new theory.
Yes, sir?
You recall I said a moment ago that maybe the attack occurred in the dark?
Yes.
Well, possibly it's something else. Let's analyze what we have so far. We have a body with 14 stab wounds all over it, found in a room that was a shambles.
Yes.
We have conflicting descriptions of an elderly or middle-aged man, and we have a woman's handbag containing some cosmetics, about $200 in cash, a Social Security card, and a telegram signed by a man named John.
Yeah?
Well, that's all. And to make matters more difficult, I found that the strip of tape at the top of the telegram indicating where the message was sent from is missing.
That's peculiar.
Yeah. So, let's look at the contents of this handbag once more. Huh? What do you see?
Rouge, powder, lipstick, eyebrow pencil.
Yes, but look at this eyebrow pencil case. It's empty. The eyebrow pencil is gone.
I don't quite follow you, Inspector. What does that prove?
It doesn't prove anything, Waterbury, but it's an indication. An indication that the man we're looking for, the murderer of Lily Grinnell, is blind.
You're listening to a dramatization of an actual criminal case history of a strange and fantastic murder, the unseen murder mystery, which resulted in one of the most remarkable examples of rapid and painstakingly smart police work in United States crime history. Justice was now on the trail of a blind man. At police headquarters in Des Moines, Inspector Curran continues his reasoning as to the murderer of Lily Grinnell.
Did you say blind, Inspector?
That's exactly what I said.
Yeah, but how is that possible? The man moved about freely.
And he had no seeing eye dog.
But don't forget that blind people often develop an acute sense of direction, as well as an ability to move about very well without the benefit of vision.
August 25th, 1947, did justice triumph? The news from 75 years ago comes up next.
You ever make a change and then think, why didn't I do this years ago? Well, that's how people feel about switching to Medishare for their health care, especially now with inflation the way it is. People are very happy with the savings. Most families save about $500 a month when they switch. It's a huge help when prices are going up so fast in so many other areas. And Medishare's customer satisfaction rate is double that of health insurance. It's just a different experience, and people really like that. Medishare is an alternative to health insurance. It's a community of Christians who share each other's healthcare bills, and it's been going strong for over 25 years. It really is the gold standard, the most trusted name in healthcare sharing. Find out why people love it, find out why they rave about the customer service, and find out how good it feels to save some money right now. They're super easy to talk to. Here's the number, 833-34-BIBLE. That's 833-34-BIBLE, 833-34-BIBLE.
Thank you for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox here on your favorite station. We're listening to an episode of Did Justice Triumph and the Unseen Murder Mystery, as it was broadcast on Monday, August 25th, 1947. In the newspapers of that Monday, 75 years ago, these were some of the headlines. The setting off of a crude Molotov cocktail bomb on the porch of a veteran Atlanta reporter called by Governor M.E. Thompson last night an act of intimidation committed by a rowdy political group. An unprecedented crime wave, which started in Atlanta and spread to many parts of the state, has spawned several such groups, according to the governor's spokesman. And for several days, the governor has received reports that some act of intimidation could be expected. It came Saturday night in the form of a terrific explosion 6 feet from where C.E. Gregory, political reporter for the Atlanta Journal for 26 years, sat reading in his living room at nearby Decatur, Georgia. Gregory not scratched, but was badly shaken by the blast, which ripped the railing off his porch. Premier-designate Konstantin Sarlis suffered his first and perhaps crucial setback last night in an attempt to give the tense Greek nation a new, more liberal cabinet. Sarlis's hope of getting the powerful Liberal Party into the cabinet were dashed when Liberal chief rejected a populist party royalist offer to give each party the same number of government portfolios. 3 retiring ministers are backing the aspirations for the premiership. Their resignation Saturday night because of opposition to the way the drive against the guerrillas is being conducted precipitated the fall of the cabinet. The Indonesian Republic of Java reported practically full-scale war raging again last night, with the strategic town of Ampel, 26 miles northeast of the Republican capital, under heavy attack by Dutch infantry and artillery. Communiques from both Indonesia and Netherlands military headquarters told of continued fighting, and the Chief of Staff of the Indonesian Army declared in a broadcast that there is not a single point for which could be used as a basis for cooperation between the Dutch and the Indonesians. Paul H. Griffin, National Commander of the American Legion, said yesterday the U.S. should send troops to aid Greece if that country is invaded. He warned that the critical situation in Greece poses threat of world conflagration on a moment's notice, and urged President Truman to call a special session of Congress to enact universal military training legislation to strengthen the nation's armed forces. Hemisphere nations were split yesterday over the right of countries not joining an inter-American defense pact to receive aid if they're attacked. A subgroup of the Aggression Committee stalled over this in the only official Sunday action of the Inter-American Conference on Peace and Security in Brazil. Skirts are longer, their price tags are higher, and the cost of liquor will be so steep this fall that the man of the house will have to survive this crisis stone cold sober. A survey of women's fall clothing shows prices are up 5 to 15%, while a liquor survey reveals that prices will jump 15 to 35% when New York State's liquor authority's fair trade rules, effective September 1st, stop the present liquor price war. Meanwhile, South Carolina's bachelor governor, J. Strom Thurmond, said yesterday that he was against longer skirts for women's dresses. Asked why, Thurmond replied, "I think that should be obvious, don't you?" Those some of the day's top news stories is reported in the newspapers of Monday, August 25th, 1947 on your radio. Did justice triumph? The conclusion next on this Thursday Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We'll wrap up this week with Friday's Classic Radio Theater and an episode of Fort Laramie starring Raymond Burr. August 26, 1956, 66 years ago, The Chaplain. 59 men down with scurvy. There are no fresh fruit or vegetables anywhere to be found on the prairie. That's coming up on Friday's Classic Radio Theater. But now the conclusion of Did Justice Triumph? 75 years ago, August 25th, 1947.
I know it sounds incredible, but everything about this case is screwy.
Inspector, do you really think a blind man could have done this job?
Maybe it was two men. One with gray hair, one with dark hair.
Here's my reasoning. In the first place, everything about the scene of the murder indicates that the man was blind. The furniture all messed up, the knife slashes all over the body. They mean that the killer had to feel his way. And the woman kept putting things in his path. But he kept finding her and kept slashing wildly.
But why didn't she scream? We've had no report that there was...
Probably too scared. Besides, a scream from her would have helped him to find her in the room.
Yeah, but, Inspector, how about his hair? That's one item that has me stumped.
Well, you recall the elevator operator's story, Herman? He said he took a man with gray hair down the elevator last night.
Yeah, he did.
Well, he noticed the man's face was red. Thought he was a little tight. Said he bumped into the elevator door.
Yes, well...
Well, then he said he took the man back upstairs. The man said he had forgotten something. And no one saw him again. At least they didn't see a man with gray hair.
But where does all this lead us, Inspector?
My hunch is that the man used the missing eyebrow pencil to darken his hair, and the rouge to redden his face, change his complexion.
So the man seen by the pastry chef out of the service entrance was the killer?
Exactly. Well, what do you men think?
Everything fits.
Well, it sounds logical to me.
So far as ultimate solution is concerned, it merely means that we add the word blind to our teletype wanted message. Waterbury.
Yes, sir?
I want you to check immediately at the address on this Social Security card. Find out all you can about the habits and friends of Lily Grinnell.
Right.
Herman, take this telegram to Western Union. Find out where it was sent from, even though that's missing from the message.
Yes, sir.
And while you men are working on those two angles, I'm going to get out a nationwide teletype asking for any information concerning this suspect. I have a feeling that he'll try to get out of the state. And therefore, we've got to work fast to get him before he goes into hiding.
Wanted by Des Moines Police Department, John Stevens or Stevenson, for questioning concerning murder of woman. Suspect in early 50s, approximately 160 pounds, has gray hair, sallow complexion, is blind. Please check all criminal records for information which might lead to apprehension of this man. Authority, Inspector Curran, Des Moines Police.
Yes? What is it?
You the landlady of this rooming house?
That's right.
Well, I'm a police officer.
What?
I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Well, certainly,
Don't
but
get
I'm not...
excited, madam. This is a routine checkup on one of your guests. I believe you had a boarder by the name of Lily Grinnell.
Had is correct. She left here on Saturday. She didn't leave any forwarding address.
You wouldn't mind answering a few questions, would you?
Oh, no. I'll be glad to tell you whatever I can. Won't you step inside?
Thanks. I have just a few questions.
The sitting room's right here, to the left.
Thank you.
Has anything happened? I mean...
All I want to know is what you can tell me about Miss Grinnell.
Yes. Well, I never knew if it was Miss or Mrs. You see, she got a telegram 2 days ago from a man asking her to meet him in a downtown hotel. I think it was her husband.
And why do you think so?
Well, one day he was here to see her. They sat right here in this sitting room. And I heard him tell her that he thought they were having a disappointing honeymoon.
What was the man like? Did you see him?
Well, only for a moment. He was about 50, with gray hair. I was surprised, because Lily was so much younger. She was a gay sort and interested in parties and kind of romantic.
Then she had other friends, other than this man you mentioned?
Oh, yes, she had many admirers. But somehow I got the idea she was married to this man. The last time he was here, he waited for her for several hours. She wasn't home.
Oh? Tell me about that. When was it?
Oh, it was the day she left. As I said, she'd had this telegram. And this man, that is the elderly man, he came here. And he waited and he waited. And finally she came in. And they had a sort of an argument. And he asked her why she hadn't met him at the hotel. And she seemed angry and she was anxious to get rid of him. So she told him she had a date. And she suggested that he registered at the hotel, saying that she'd join him after a date.
And this was last Saturday?
Yes.
Thank you, Mally.
Tell me, has something happened to Lily? Why are the police
This is a serious case, and I must warn you not to mention to anyone that I've been here.
Oh?
Do you understand?
I wouldn't say a word, not a word to anyone.
While Detective Waterbury talks with the landlady of Lily Grinnell's rooming house, Inspector Curran and Detective Herman at police headquarters talk with the truck driver.
Sure, I drove that bakery supply truck away from the Standish Arms Hotel last night, but I don't know nothing about a murder.
Just tell us what you do know.
About what?
About the man you gave a lift to, the blind man.
I didn't know he was blind till after he got into my truck. I was about to start off, see, when this guy comes up to me and asks for a ride. I'm a nice guy, so I says, okay.
Tell us what happened.
Describe the man.
Sure, give me time. Well, like I said before to this detective here, the guy comes up and asks me for a ride.
When was this?
Oh, I'd say about midnight. Maybe a little before.
Uh-huh. Go on.
Well, he gets into my truck, and I says, where to? And he says, the bus terminal.
Bus terminal?
Yeah, that's it. So I drops him there. And that's all.
Did you notice anything unusual about him?
Well, like I said, I found out he was blind after he got into my truck. And another thing.
Yes?
I noticed he kind of smelled of powder, maybe perfume.
The cosmetics.
What?
Never mind. Did this man carry a suitcase or bundle of any kind as if he were going on a trip?
Yeah. He had a bundle of clothes wrapped up inside a dark suit coat.
How was he dressed?
Oh, I remember he wore some sort of heavy white shirt and some dirty overalls. They looked like they had paint on them.
And doubtless had his regular clothes packed up in the bundle.
I wouldn't know, mister.
Well, thanks very much for the information. That's all.
You mean I can go?
Yes. And don't mention this conversation to anyone.
Don't worry, I won't. I don't want to get mixed up in no murder.
Show this man out, Herman.
Yes, sir.
And check Western Union again about the origin of that telegram.
Sure thing. They promised me an answer about now.
Inspector Curran.
Inspector, this is Captain Manchester, Los Angeles Police.
Yes, Captain?
I have your countrywide teletype on that blind man you're looking for.
Yes?
I think I know who he is.
That's the best news I've heard all day. Let's have it.
Well, from the description you give, I'm practically sure that this man is a convicted murderer named John Stevenson.
Let me have all you've got, please.
Well, back in 1934, this man, John Stevenson, was convicted of killing a young woman in a cafe brawl here in Los Angeles. He stabbed her to death and was given a life sentence.
Was he blind at the time?
No. Blindness came later. He lost his sight in prison after an illness and was paroled after serving 8 years of his sentence.
Uh-huh. Anything more?
Well, our record shows several arrests for minor offenses, but not here in Los Angeles.
Where?
In and around Chicago.
Chicago?
Yes, that's his hometown.
This is beginning to make more sense every minute. Thanks, Captain. Thanks very much.
Not at all, Inspector. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Herman, Waterbury.
Coming, Inspector.
Is Waterbury back yet?
He just got in. Here he is now. Hey, Waterbury.
I checked the victim's address, Inspector. Talked to the landlady.
Uncover anything?
Merely a confirmation of what we already knew or figured out, and a confirmation of the fact that the killer and his victim were married, though not very happily.
Yeah, that all fits in the story. Well, Herman, how about that telegram?
Western Union has checked back. They say the telegram was sent from Chicago.
Chicago? That's all we need, gentlemen. All we need.
What's Chicago got to do with it, Inspector?
Everything, Waterbury. I just had a phone call from the Los Angeles police. They believe our man is one John Stevenson who was convicted of murder years ago, sentenced to life imprisonment, and then was paroled after he lost his sight in prison.
That's our man, Inspector.
The important information they gave me is that his hometown is Chicago.
And the bakery service truck driver said he dropped the man at a bus terminal.
You're ahead of me, Herman. My conclusion is that this killer will head for Chicago by bus, and is very probably on his way there right now.
Then we've got to work fast.
Right, we haven't a minute to lose. I want you two men to charter a special airplane. Fly to Chicago at once.
And cover all bus terminals.
Exactly. In the meantime, I'll phone the Chicago police a description of Stevenson and ask for their cooperation in covering the bus terminals. I'll give them instructions to pick him up on sight.
Well, that shouldn't be too difficult. There are probably not too many terminals with buses arriving from Des Moines.
Well, if you two men get going, you'll be there before John Stevenson arrives. So let's have some fast action.
The bus company said this was the most likely terminal for a bus from Des Moines, Waterbury. There's one due right now.
Of course, he might have stopped over somewhere.
Or he might have headed in the opposite direction. All we can do is sit tight and wait.
Here's a bus now.
That should be the Des Moines bus.
Well, let's see what gets out of it.
That's right. I beg your pardon, sir. I beg your pardon. Excuse me.
What a relief it is.
Waterbury, look.
Middle-aged man, dark hair, dark glasses.
With an overnight bag.
And a cane.
That man is blind.
Porter, where are you? Yes, sir, right here, sir. Get me a taxi, Porter.
Yes, sir, right away.
Let's go, Herman.
Right.
And Porter.
Yes, sir.
Take care of this bag.
We'll take care of the bag.
And we'll take care of you.
Who are you? I can't see.
Police officers from Des Moines. Just walk with us.
You won't need a porter, Stevenson.
You can take that gun away from my back, officer. I won't offer any resistance. Where are you taking me?
You're going right back to Des Moines.
To police headquarters where you're gonna talk.
Talk? About what?
You can think that over on the way back to Des Moines.
Later, at Des Moines Police Headquarters, John Stevenson sits at the desk of Inspector Curran and talks. Talks while the three police officers listen.
And so, after I became blind in prison, I was paroled. Some friends contributed some money, and I had a little of my own. And I decided to start life anew. And that's all, gentlemen. I don't know anything about this murder charge you're talking about.
We think differently. And the evidence speaks for itself.
We found a white bone-handled knife in your suitcase.
And the clothes you wore away from the hotel, working clothes, spattered with paint.
And the powder on your neck doesn't quite cover up the marks where she scratched you.
Laboratory tests of the scrapings of skin found under the dead woman's fingernails compare exactly with your skin.
And your hair isn't dark, as you'd like us to believe. Without the eyebrow pencil coloring, it's gray.
Why the disguise? Were you running away from a crime?
Yes, I was running away. I didn't know.
Didn't know what?
I didn't know what I'd done.
Now, listen to me, Stevenson. You must realize that we've got enough evidence to clinch a murder indictment. You'd better get the whole thing off your chest. You'll feel better.
Yes, maybe I will. All right, here's the story. I met Lily in Chicago. She was a hostess in a restaurant. I became very fond of her, infatuated.
and I began to be afraid that I'd lose her. So I asked her to marry me, and she agreed.
You were married?
Yes, in Chicago. And then I realized that she didn't love me, that she'd married me for my money. What little I had. We quarreled, and she left me, came here to Des Moines.
She worked here?
Yes. I was very unhappy. I wanted to be with Lily. That's why I wired her, asking her to meet me here on Saturday.
But she didn't meet you?
No. I registered at the hotel with a friend of mine. Then he left, and I waited for Lily. Finally, she came. We got to the hotel about midnight and came up to the room.
And you quarreled again?
No. She said she was sorry that she left me, and she told me she decided to be a good wife and would stay with me. She left her boarding house, checked out. So we retired.
Well, go on, Stevenson. What next?
Next thing I remember, I awoke suddenly. I could hear Lily going through my pockets. She was going to rob me and leave me again. Something happened to me. I lost my head, I guess. I pulled out my knife and slashed at her. I slashed wildly all around the room. I found her several times, and then she'd go away from me. Then I'd find her and slash again. I don't remember what happened after that.
You know now. You killed her.
I wasn't sure. I have nothing more to say.
No need to say any more, Stevenson. As far as we're concerned, your case is finished. From now on, your fate is in the hands of the courts of justice.
John Stevenson had nothing more to say other than to plead guilty to a charge of murder in the first degree. And so it happened. For the second time in his life, he heard a judge sentence him to life imprisonment. He is now serving that sentence. Justice has triumphed.
Next week at the same time, the Mutual Broadcasting System will present another dramatization of an actual criminal case history taken from the files of the True Justice series, appearing each week in the New York Sunday News and its syndicate. It is a case in which no two stories of the crime agreed with each other or with the facts. A case in which conflicting clues made a solution seem impossible. It's the case of the strange death of Mary Taverner. The dramatization you have just heard was based on an actual criminal case history. However, all names, characters, places, and dates were fictitious. These programs are produced and directed by Jock McGregor. They're written by Bryce Disk Jr. The narrator was Carl Caruso. Inspector Curran was played by Barry Thompson, John Stevenson by Philip Clark, and the landlady by Helene Dumas. Others in the cast were Ken Dania, Paul Nugent, Ralph Locke, and Humphrey Davis. The orchestra, conducted by Emerson Buckley, played music written by Richard DuPage.
August 25th, 1947, did justice triumph here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Visit our webpage, classicradio.stream, where you can stream our shows, learn more about classic radio collecting, contact me, buy me a coffee, find our social media links, etc. classicradio.stream. Thank this station, support the advertisers, tell your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial, and have a great Thursday. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station.